Welcome to Profit CRM Learning Series. CRM is a journey. This video series will take you through the ins and outs of the Profit CRM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Warren Stokes. I'm going to be sharing with you an awesome topic and providing some training and guidance on using Profit CRM's reporting tools. So first, I'm going to cover some of the concepts to give you some context for the rest of the program, which is going to be demonstrating how to generate reports and get that actionable insight in Profit CRM today. And for those of you who are already clients, you probably know we've been very successfully delivering this solution since 2002, and we're a Washington-based company. Everything, including sales, support, and development, is all headquartered in the U.S. Most known for ease of use, easy to admin, and that sort of thing. And I've been involved in sales and sales management for well over 15 years. I've helped now, I think, over 1,000 companies select, profit, and grow their business with it. Hold a couple of patents and tracking over about 1.3 million views of these seminars and webinars on Outlook on the YouTube channel. And one of the things that I want you to think about is let's just talk about when you're thinking of reporting. One of the key things is to ask not just the what, the data, but the so what, and that's where we'll come into the actionable insight part of this. So I'm going to cover some of the basic topics, and we'll jump in and show you how it all works. First of all, think of all reports as derived from some sort of data. That data, once it's organized, in columns or sorted or filtered a little bit, you get more useful information. When you start really extracting useful information, you can get knowledge about your business, about your sales pipeline, about your sales team, or whatever it is you're looking at. And then you start to gain insight. But the key is, from all of this, the main value is derived from gaining actionable insight. And I'll be definitely showing you what I mean by that. We'll be talking about several categories of reporting. First, we'll look at some of the basic ways to just get better data, more useful data right out of the live database and Profit without really even running a report, how to filter and sort and get useful data, how to export data to Excel easily. It's a easy thing to do, and most people know how to use Excel, so we provide that as a basic reporting tool. I should mention, though, that exporting to Excel is a permission-based function. So if you do not currently have that permission, you'll have to talk to your Profit administrator and have them activate that. But that's if you have that permission level, you'll be able to export data to Excel from any Profit list or view. And then Profit's traditional report manager, it's basically kind of like the old Crystal reports or one of those. It gives you the ability to run reports, build your own reports, and I think you'll find that useful. And then finally, analytics dashboards, which there's 3 dashboards that come with the Profit solution out of the box. And then we can also develop custom reports and dashboards. But to talk about what this is all about and how to get what we're talking about when it comes to actionable insight, I mean, do you really know right now how many new contacts were created last month by your team? Do you know how many opportunities were created? One of the key things in sales. Which rep generated the most or the least activity? Which clients had the most or least activity? Do you know what your lead conversion rates are on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis? It would be useful, obviously. How many activities does it actually take to get new business? That might be something you're interested in tracking and learning. How much revenue is in your sales pipeline that's active? What stage are they all in? Things of that nature. This is what we're talking about. Now, when we get into the advanced filtering, many of you know that Profit has, data, a lot of data in it, of course, and you can sort and filter it different ways. But I'll be showing you a couple of more advanced techniques other than just, running list views, things like, grouping by field, setting advanced filtering, and that sort of thing. So one of the things that we'll be talking about is how to just get more data out of Profit without even really running a report. And you can see all of these different data points as you start to add those advanced filters. Export to Excel is a useful function. Of course, the key there is that for the data to be useful, it has to be viewed in Profit, and you have to be able to sort it and filter it and in certain ways so that you can export relevant data, not just giant lists of data. You can export company data and all its attributes in different combinations. You can export contact data. You can export opportunity data as well. And then Profit's Report Manager, if you haven't been in there much, it's basically a tool that gives you a lot of the basic visual reporting tools. You can select what report you want. There's about 30 or so that are built right into Profit out of the box. There's a report designer tool that lets you format, add logos and such. Then I'll show you how to run reports and how you sort them, sort them and filter them by date range or sales rep or user, and various other filters, and then how you can create your own custom reports. And then finally, we have well, of course, the live data in Profit is what it's really all derived from. But one of the concepts I talk about and share with people is, if you're expecting there to be, I don't know, so many new contacts created a month, maybe you want to inspect what you expect. Are you expecting your leads to be updated regularly? Maybe you ought to check that. So this all applies to contacts, company accounts, and opportunities. Maybe you want to find out if the data is complete, easy to do, just to try to get a little bit more discipline in how the data is collected. And all these things basically roll up into, once you set your expectations, the ability to report gives you the ability to inspect what you expect, whether you're doing it with just the grid data or the list data in Profit, with Profit Report Manager, or with the analytics dashboards. And you can look at, pipeline, everything in your pipeline. You can look at activities. You can look at productivity by way of how many contacts, companies, opportunities are created, and that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, we're talking about getting data in a useful format out. I'm going to start from simple and go into more complex with all these dashboards and such. And the idea here that I really want you to get is that one of the outcomes of this is getting actionable insight so that you can make data-driven decisions. The what is the data. That's what's going on. The what is the lead source. The what is all of the data you're collecting. But the key question is, what do you do with this data? You can interpret trends. You can see what's improving, what's going up, what's going down. Are you creating more contacts, fewer contacts, or more opportunities? Where's your new business located geographically? And here's a little business tip for you, then we'll dive right into the live demonstration here. First of all, you'll be able to find out what's not working, what leads are not generating revenue, what geographic revenues are not generating any new business, and so on. But you'll also find out what's working. So find out what's not working, do less of it. Why keep hammering the dead horse there? Find out what is working and simply do more of it. That's my business tip for the day. So let's get into the demonstration portion of this. And by the way, you can ask questions in the webinar chat control panel if you wish. That's available. If you ask them during the program, I'll try to answer them live. Otherwise, you can always I'll post my contact information again at the end of the show here. Profit solution, of course, as many of you know already, is embedded in Outlook. It's accessed by various, either the ribbon or the folders in Outlook. So you can see the Profit ribbon. If I go into my mail, you can see my Profit folders. And to get into the CRM, I just click on the folder that I want. Some people leave them open in new windows. That's a handy thing to do as well. But once you're in the database here, I'm going to show you what we're talking about here. So let's start by getting into some of the basic functions of getting your data organized in these list views. So every time you're in a folder, you can have different lists or views. And I'm in Contact Manager, and I can have different lists or views there. You can see I have my active prospects, my clients, my contacts in certain geographies, and so on. So let's get right into some of the basic concepts here of what I mean by sorting and filtering and creating relevant lists. So we can maybe just simply export it to Excel, might be a useful thing. All right, so one of the things is, first you got to choose your columns that are in the list. As you can see across the top here, there's first name, last name, company, industry, and so on. Now I wanted to point out that you can drag and drop these columns just to get them in the right order that you like. Maybe I want the modified date over here. It's a pretty useful one, or created date. See how I'm just dragging and dropping these columns? You can make them wider or narrower. And the other thing you can do is choose columns from the database to add to the list. So I can right click and say choose columns, and this will bring up my column chooser. Now the idea is that in Profit, there's usually, it's up to 100 possible fields in any particular data type. So you select the fields that you want, and you simply move them to the right, and that puts them in the list view. If you want to move them more over to the left, you just move them up in this list, as you can see here. So by doing that, you can add columns out of the database into any particular view. So I've got all of my columns that I want. If you want to save those changes, you just right click, save changes to view. What we're getting at is organizing these lists so that you export the right data or run reports on the right data. Now, let's talk a little bit about basic filtering. Filtering is the ability to narrow down or reduce the number of records by some criteria. Now, this list already has a geographic filter or two applied. They're all in Hollywood, California, zip code 90210. How you add filters is you take any of these columns and you simply filter by them. It's like an Excel-based filter, very similar. That's intentional. Like, for example, maybe I want to go down here and say I want to see only those contacts that are in the manufacturing or construction or consulting or some other industries. So notice how as I add that filter, it narrows that list down to only those contacts that are in the manufacturing industry, which, by the way, happens to be just one of the customizable fields in Profit. You can see here that these contacts are all marked as industry manufacturing. These other customizable fields could also use to be sort and report, though, by the way. And your Profit Administrator can show you how that all works in terms of customizing these fields. Most of you have probably already done it, but this allows you to get more granularity in reporting. So real simple concept. Again, we basically just choose the columns we want in a list that we're in. We add filters by geography or industry or any other criteria that you want to add filters by. The filter is simply just this little filter icon, very similar to Excel. If you want to clear a filter, you just click clear filter. But let's just say I wanted to create a quick report of only those contacts that are flagged as manufacturing contacts. So there we go. I'm going to go back to that. Now, here's what we can do. We can select certain rows of these. This is just using my keyboard. Right now I'm just selecting, certain ones of these maybe, or maybe I want to select them all. And when I get my selection made, I just, right here is the little quick export to Excel button. Just click that. You can either export selected rows or all rows. That gives you the ability to select a little bit more granularly what you want to pop up in the Excel report, and there it is. So now we've got that in an Excel spreadsheet. Of course, I know you all probably know a lot about Excel or a fair amount about Excel, and that's one of the reasons we make it so easy to export data to Excel. I do have another webinar on just Excel functions, so if you want to check that out, go to avidian.com and look at our webinars. But nevertheless, the point is that we're making it very easy to export to Excel by adding just simple filters. Now let's get a little more interesting and go into our opportunity pipeline here. So I'm just over here in my Opportunity Manager folder, and I'm in a view, I call it Hollywood Projects. Now, you may or may not know this, but one of the things you could do is you could actually create groupings of these simply by taking the field, like sales stage, where I'm at right here, and putting it up into the bar on the top that says drag a column here to group by that column. So again, what I did is I just grabbed the sales stage label and I moved it up to that top bar there. Let me do it again just to be clear on that. I'm going to group by sales stage. So I grab this, I just click on the sales stage label. Notice here it's telling you that right there. Drag a column here to group it. So I'm going to grab that column and I'm just going to put it up there. And now I've got my opportunity pipeline group by sales stage. So I can see how many deals are in each stage. I can expand those lists right here. So if I want to work on them, I can go in and do that. But it's just a really handy thing to be able to do to organize your data grouped by a certain criteria, in this case, the sales stage column. But let's just say I wanted to do some other type of grouping, like by lead type. Okay, there's my lead type. Here's all my leads that came in via web in that list. Here's all the leads that came in, from resellers or referrals or what have you. So all of these are groupings of the columns that I grouped up here on the top. So that's a very useful thing to be able to do. Another thing you can do here is you can sort by any column. Very useful. Maybe you want to sort by the most revenue or the least revenue. Most is usually what most, you're interested in. Again, I can select any or all of these. And maybe I just want to see what's in my top, my top 10 list. Now notice down here at the bottom of this window, as I start selecting records in my opportunities, some summary information appears. How many I've selected, the total value means the revenue in that within those 10 top opportunities because they're sorted by revenue, and the average deal size. So that's a nice list. And again, you can export that to Excel by just choosing export selected rows. Maybe your boss comes in and say, hey, what are your top 10 opportunities in your pipeline? Click, click, click. You could do this. I'm going to show you one other little thing here. You can save this file, or you can just send it right from Windows. This is a Windows function. You just click share, and I can send it as a PDF or an Excel workbook. And it really just creates an on-the-fly way to send that to somebody. Click that, click send, and away you go. So the idea there is I was very quickly and easily being able to get the data that I wanted out of Profit, in this case, my top 10 opportunities. It's pretty simple, but very, very useful things on how to get the data organized. Again, sort, filter, group. Once you get the data you want, you can either select some of it or all of it, and then you export to Excel. So that's a really, probably one of the most commonly used reporting functions in Profit, is export to Excel. And the fact this whole idea of the grid view, this list view, is really, it's like an Excel spreadsheet. And if you're in a multi-user environment, which most of you are, it gives you all the ability. It's permission based, but it gives you the ability to share data as well, which means it's all real-time data. That's what I mean by you don't really have to go in and do a bunch of reporting to get useful actionable data out of here. What are your top 10 opportunities? Let me give you one other example. What about modified date? You might want to just move that over and take a look at modified date here. Well, if I sort by most recent, that shows you what's been most recently updated in the system. If I sort by oldest, it's just a clicking of the modified date column here, shows me, oh, there's a couple I haven't talked to in over a month. I better reach out to them, right? So these are all possibly just contacts or opportunities that you want to make sure that everybody's tracking on and keeping up to date. Nothing worse than leads getting cold, right? All right, so let me go into, well, I'll show you another one while I'm here, just because I want to be thorough about this. So one of the fields is probability. Let me drag that over here. I'll just do a drag and drop, and I'm going to sort by probability. Maybe what I want to look at is all the deals that are the most likely to close. So this is that probability setting in the opportunity section here. Let's say I wanted to look at everything that's over 50%. I could just highlight them like that. I just sorted by probability. Now there is my list of high probability closes. Pretty cool. So I'm going to show you another thing though that helps you group. It's an advanced filter function here. And this might be useful, say, for estimated close date. So if you click on the funnel symbol, it's going to bring up the advanced filters or available filters. And if you go over here on you hover over advanced filters, and you'll see that there's various options available. And in a date filter range, the most useful thing is either more, greater than or less than, which would be, in the future or in the past or between a certain date range. So if I want to see what might close between now and a certain date range, I just put that in as the filtered date range. I click OK. And then out of those 33 opportunities, I see 15 of them, as you can see the little summary down below, are in the date range to close. So these are all my closable opportunities. By the way, you can just right click and say select all. Without even really running a formal report, I can see that I have $7.4 million worth of business that's estimated to close in the date range I selected. Pretty cool. Actually, I wish I had that 7.4 million, but we have a healthy pipeline. Anyway, so I'm just showing you all the things that you might think of doing before you even go into the next level, which is the reports. So I think we covered it, export to Excel. I'm going to cover a couple questions as we go. Does the modified date column consider changes to only contact info, or will it consider changes in the notes section as well? Any change you make to an opportunity, and then you save it, for example, changing the status, the stage, the probability, or entering a note, will update that modified date. And if you're working, by the way, might as well cover this. If you're working in contacts or companies, you'll also have the same thing where if I update a company, which means do something and save it, then it's going, like if I put a note into the company, left a voicemail or something, or changed an address or set a different setting on one of these fields, and I save it, it's going to update that modified date. So thanks for that question. So that works in contacts, companies, and opportunities, the whole idea of modified date or any of the criteria. The main point is that there's a lot of ways to look at your data so that you can get actionable insight. Oh, and one more example, then we'll move on. But let's say you wanted to just see how many contacts were created in a certain date range. Well, what's that? I'll move created date over here. Created date, so I could just sort by the created date. Here's my oldest, here's my newest, or I could put a filter on that created date, and I could say available filters between such and such. Maybe you want to see how many contacts were created this month and that sort of thing. Pretty cool. All right, let's move on. So let's move into Report Manager. Report Manager is now accessible through a button. It used to be a folder. I don't know, we changed that so that you can access it without going into a folder from any view. So right now, all I have to do is click on that button that's called Reports. I'm going to go through some basic reports with you and then I'll show you how to create your own reports, which is a useful thing to do, and how to run reports, sorting and filtering different ways and that sort of thing. So let's just click on the Report Manager button and it brings up the Report Manager window. You'll notice that there's these 7 categories of reports. Now, you will have noticed that there's actually default reports in all of these. This Report Manager is a powerful tool, and I think you'll find it very useful. And you can start by just looking at some basic reports, and I'll show you one that I've created and how I've I use the designer tool to modify the look of it a little bit. First of all, you can determine who you want to run the report on. This is permission based. The only people you see here are those that you have permission to run reports on. But once you've selected the person or people that you want to run the reports on, you'll notice that it has an orientation, landscape, which is horizontal, or portrait, which is vertical. If you create a report in landscape, it'll remember that. Landscape is just the horizontal format. You have 2 output options, basic, which allows you to run the report and then save it as PDF, Word, or Excel, or you can just run it right into an Excel report. Removing duplicate rows is useful for a forecast, so you don't pick up the same item over because multiple people are using it or something like that. But really the idea is simple. You choose your sort order, and this will be based on the fields in the report. So this report has all these different fields: account rep, company name, modified date, revenue, and so on. And you can choose an ascending or descending sort. Alphabetically, it would be starting with your A's and so on. If it were a numeric field, it would start with the smallest and go to the largest. You can actually add up to 3 sorts for any particular report. But the next thing you would want to do, and you always want to do this, is put in a date range. You can put in just some predefined periods, 30, 60, 90 days or what have you, or you can put in a start and end date for the report. But when I generate this, you'll see that it's just going to pick up, in this case, activity for the last 15 days on the user that I chose, which is me. You can filter by account. I won't do that right now, but you could just filter down. Maybe you have a lot of opportunities with the same account. You want to see all those only. You can filter it by a revenue range, greater than or equal to, and so on. There's 2 revenue fields, and this will reflect whatever you call them in your template. Some people call it estimated annual revenue or whatever. And then finally, you can sort by any of the other criteria in the report. Now, I've already selected pretty much all the different activities. If I don't want these in here, I can just simply remove them by taking them out of the filtered box there. Like if I don't want to have meeting notes, or if I don't want to have one of those, I just simply move it out of the filtered box. To add it back in, you just select the field you want to filter on and click load that criteria. Pretty simple. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at this report. This will be an activity report. It will be based on my activity for the last 15 days. And as you'll be able to see, it's going to pick up on in this case, I'm running up as an opportunity report, and I'll be able to I'm running a report on all of the activity with my opportunity sales pipeline in the last 15 days. So what that's really doing is it's pulling the data out of my opportunity manager, where I put in things, notes, and so forth, and it's going to give me those notes. So you can see in here all of the different notes that I've put in. It'll give you the customer name, the sales rep name, the revenue, activity. These, you actually define what you want to have in this report, but these are the normal ones. When did it happen? What kind of activity was it? The blue text are the actual notes from the entry. But the nice thing about this is a person doesn't have to create some sort of call report once a week or once a month. All they need to do is put a note in the opportunity whenever they have an activity that they want to log into the system, is they just put in a note. Pretty simple. And just by way of kind of clarity here, these notes are coming from whatever I put in here. Left a voicemail, sent a quote, DocuSigned contract. You can put text in here if you want. That's where that's all coming from. You can run reports like this for companies and contacts as well. But what I was showing you there was the running a report. I'm going to go back and show you where I got that. I have it in my pipeline category. It's a report called activity notes. Now, I'll show you one other, and then we'll get deeper into this. I'm sure you're excited about that. We'll get deeper into this and take a look at, for example, how to build reports and how to customize them even more. So I'll show you one that's pretty useful. I find it very useful, especially since I'm in sales. I can put in some kind of a date range here. It doesn't matter what it is. I can, again, select who I want to run this on. This is going to be a pipeline report that shows me where everything's at in my pipeline. So I select who I want to run it on. The sort order for me, I'll just do revenue descending, largest deals to smallest. I'll put in an estimated close date range, and I could filter it further, but for this one, I just want to see everything that meets those criteria. I click View Report, and this will give me a pipeline report. Okay, there's everything that's in my pipeline. It has the customer name, who's the sales rep is, when we think it'll close, the stage it in, and the revenue that it's worth. Now, this one has been modified a little bit. I've customized this report a little bit. I put our logo in here. I changed colors. I moved a couple things around. And let me show you exactly how we did that. So on any report, let's just take the basic pipeline stage report that comes right out of the box. And by the way, if I run this right now, okay, if I run this report right now, this is off a standard vanilla little report here. I'm going to run this one, and then we'll customize it to show you. So here's one, got all these columns and such in here, and maybe I want to change that around, and it shows what's in by stage and all of that. But it doesn't have like my logo in it, and maybe I want to change some formatting, add or remove any fields, things like that. So here's how we're going to do that. This again is just one of the out-of-box reports. You'll see it in your report list right out of the box. I'm going to show you in a moment how to create your own using the wizard, but this will be a standard one. So what we're going to do is, rather than running the report, we're going to go up here and we're going to go into the designer. Now this is really getting deep, but some of you might want to play around with this. You can't really break anything because you can always redo a report or whatever. But let's just say I wanted to edit this field on top that's the label of the report. It's called pipeline stage. Well, I just click into it. Maybe I wanted to call it my sales pipeline by stage. I'm just modifying the description of the report a little bit. These other two fields are system generated. This is the date it was generated, and this will show you who generated it when you run the report. But down here below, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You'll see I've got a bunch of fields. In my opinion, this is a little bit crowded. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a couple of fields, and I'm going to move a couple around. I'm going to, estimated close date. I don't need the hour and minute. So I'm going to do a little trick over here. When I'm highlighted down in the detailed field of estimated close date, I'm going to go over here to the right, and in the output format, one of the quick little tricks you'll want to learn here is how to change that to a simple month, day, month, year kind of a thing. So you go capital M / ED / Y. Keep asking why 4 times. And that's going to change that to a little simpler date format. And revenue, it's already currency, so I'll leave that. But maybe I want to take one of these other fields out, or 2, to give myself some room. I'll just delete those. And I think you'll see what we're going to be doing here. Okay, so now I'm going to do something which will be, I want to add my logo into this report, or an image of some sort, usually a logo. So I'm going to move things around a little bit. I can select multiple things and move them over at the same time, or I can just drag and drop them, as you can see here. It's probably most like the old Crystal Reports report writer. If you've ever used that, it's a little bit like that. You can line things up and so on. Up here, I'm going to left justify that. I won't get carried away with this, but just to show you, I'm basically modifying the report right now. I'm putting in a little bit different formatting for my labels up here. I'll make that a little bit smaller. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put our logo right here. So check this out. I'm just going to go up here to where it says picture. I'm going to drag that over, and it's going to create a box for a picture. I know my logo is on kind of on the long, wide size. You'll have to play around a little bit with how your logo is laid out. And it has to be fairly small, like 200 by 300 pixels or something like that. But anyway, I'm on that box, and over here on the right, you'll see there's a thing that says image. I just click that button that shows up, and I'm going to put in the profit logo small, and there we go. Got it in one shot. Lucky. All right. Let's change the color of that font. So I highlight it. I go over here to the right. I know this is kind of advanced and you don't have to do all this, but it's kind of fun. I'm going to make this one oh, I like that Dodger blue. There we go. Kind of matches our logo. So now I've made a few changes. I've, removed some fields. I've moved some things around, and you can do more of that if you want. But now I'm going to save those changes. So I click Save, File Save. Now let's run that report and see our customizations, how they look. Again, that was just an out-of-box report, and there's the customized report. You can see the color of the font has changed. I added the logo. I reduced, deleted a couple of columns and so on. Oh, by the way, once you've run a report, let me go back and run that. I wanted to show you what you then would do with it. So you got to do something with it. So you maybe want to print it or save it. And you'll notice that this comes up in some different formats. You can save this as a PDF. You can save it as an Excel file, and it will retain the graph in there actually. Or you could save it in several other formats. RTF is so that you can edit this in a Word document. So if I saved it as an RTF, I could open it in Word. So the most common modes of saving are PDF, Word, or Excel. Then I could just print it or email it to somebody or what have you. So that's an example of how to edit an existing report. I'm going to show you how to create a new report now. And that's using this tool called the Wizard. So I'm in Report Manager. Going back, I just click on the button that says Reports here in any one of my managers, Profit Opportunity Manager or what have you. I click the Wizard button, and this brings up essentially a report builder. So first of all, you decide what category you want to build the report in. I'll say opportunities. If you have used profit in multiple departments, you're going to select the department, sales or what have you. And I'm going to create a report called Webinar Training Report. Okay, just giving it a name. Now I'll usually right click and copy and select copy, because you'll see on the next screen, you're asked what do you want the report title to be, which is what prints out or shows display. So I usually make it the same thing, copy paste. Now on the left are all the fields available in this particular category. This is an opportunity category. So for example, I probably want the customer name, which in our world is generally a company, not always, it could be a contact name. We could put in things like, let's do estimated close date, probably a good one for an opportunity report. So notice how they're alphabetically organized here. And let's put in a revenue number. Revenue, total contract value is the field I would usually want. And I'll put in users, which is the sales rep assigned to the deal. Company name, estimated close date, revenue. Let's do stage. All right, so we have that in there. And let's do sales stage and sales status. All right, now ready. ready. I've chosen my fields. You could add others if you want. There's no limit. And I'm going to go to the next right here. And here's where I have a couple of options. Next, finish. Do I want to go to designer? That's where you might say yes. And here's that report. The reason I say you might say yes is because you might want to do some of those things I talked about, change colors, move things around, add your logo and things of that nature. But in essence, all we then want to do is we can now run that report, because it'll appear now in my report manager here, webinar report, and I could sort and filter by different criteria. And let's say estimated close date in the next 90 days or whatever. All the things I showed you earlier, because now it's a report that you've already built. I can view that report, and there we go. Keep an eye on my chats and Q&A over here. Okay, looking good. Can you create a report showing multiple departments? That would probably be in the realm of custom reports. So one report showing multiple departments would be a custom report, but I'll show you dashboards that let you do that. In the report manager, that would be multiple reports or custom report. But here's that report we created. Here's the columns we wanted, and it's not very fancy, but that's how you can create a report in report manager. There's quite a few nuances to this, and I don't expect you to necessarily in one sitting know everything there is to know about this tool, but it's pretty darn useful. And I think you'll find the ability to just create some activity reports, some pipeline reports, or just data reports very useful. So there we go. And so that's what I meant by a custom report using Report Manager. Is I'm talking about using, to be clear, the wizard to create your own report. The other category of custom reports was that we will build custom reports, or maybe you have somebody that's knowledgeable and could do that yourself. But that you'd contact your account manager, and again, I'll display all that contact information after the program here. So let's keep going on. Okay, so that leads us to profit analytics dashboards. So profit, if you are enabled with this, and if you're not, check with your account manager. In the profit ribbon, there's a button that says analytics, and that can be activated and bring up your analytics dashboards just like this here. This is from that button. Now it does take about a minute to load, so I just preloaded that one if you haven't loaded it for the first time in the day. So that report will then have, this is the out-of-box dashboards that we're talking about. These are not custom. All of you that you have the sales version of Profit, Team Edition, or higher will have these available to you. But here's what they consist of. Down below, you can see there's 3 tabs: Pipeline Report, Activity Report, and New Accounts Report. So the Pipeline Report is basically showing you everything that's in your pipeline. But when we talked about, or the question was asked, can you run a report on multiple departments? This is one way to do it, because you can see over here on the left, you can select the department you want. And in this case, we're running a report for all the departments that I have access to see. And you can see the users pipeline by revenue. You can see a little summary of how many active opportunities there are in that date range. Oh, by the way, the date range is right up here. So if I move that, you can start seeing the graph change. While that's doing its thing, because it's refreshing right now, I'm going to show you what I like to recommend too, is using the desktop version of Power BI. Same thing, but I'll show you a little bit more about it. This one's a little more lively. I like it. It's free. It comes with, it's a Microsoft tool. It's Microsoft Power BI Desktop. You can see it right there. So these are those same things. What I like about this style of report is, first of all, you can run it out right off your desktop without even opening Outlook. There's other ways to deploy it through websites and et cetera. But with this report, one of the things you can do is change the chart visualization style here. This is just using the out-of-box Power BI. So for example, if I wanted to change this graph into a pie graph, notice I just select it, choose pie graph, and away we go. If I wanted to make it a vertical bar graph, a horizontal bar graph, and so on. Activities, same way. So I like this because you can on the fly change the chart type. And again, you filter it and sort it by different date ranges, choose your departments and so on. If I deselect a department over here, you'll see that the graph changes and so on. So this is one of the second of the 3. There's pipeline, there's activity, and then there's this third one, which is called we call it the team dashboard. And what it helps you do is just kind of summarize the creation of different records by type. How many contacts were created in that date range? How many companies were created? How many opportunities were created? Where were they geographically located? You can just get a little overview of that in the map. You can look at it by a specific user, or you could look at it by multiple users. And these are the filters that are built right into these dashboards. So this one helps you gain an understanding of really new entity creation, new business, things that create new business. Kind of, for example, in sales, wouldn't it be logical for you to be creating new contacts every month? Yes, of course. Companies, if they work for companies, yeah. Opportunities, of course. How many are you creating? What job? So contacts created by job function is one that we use a little fuzzy logic, a little AI to extract from the contact records what the job function is, because it's not always exactly by title. So what you want to see, of course, is you want to see that you're getting some decision maker. So these 3 dashboards are out of the box. When I mentioned custom reports, we can build custom reports. We can build custom dashboards. Custom dashboards might be to show your product lines, your services, or some combination of things. And this can basically look at any part of the database. And again, you can sort and filter, slice and dice by any of these criteria. One of the questions here is how many, is it possible to enter and track emails, phone calls, and voicemails and such by contact? So it certainly is. I'm going to segue because tracking is part of our program today. In Contact Manager here, let's just take a contact here, Mel Gibson. Okay, so if you look down below, and you can make this any height that you want it. Notice how I can lower and raise this little pane down here. And you can also raise and lower the whole thing by the little arrow on the right there. But anyway, so the notes area is whatever you want to put in as notes. You can put in a note that said you left a voicemail, that you sent a quote, that you had a meeting and recorded some notes in there. We met to review the new quotes or something like that. And notice there's a little spell checker in there, handy for me. And you can give it an activity type, notes from a meeting. These are what your company has customized, or if you're looking at Profit for the first time, these are customizable entries. Things like I did a quote follow-up, I left a voicemail, or what have you. And it's automatically time and date stamped. These are reportable fields. So you can do that in the contact. If you wanted to see activities of emails and so forth for that contact, I can go over to the tab called Activities right here and just search for emails or whatever it is I'm looking for. You can search for emails, appointments, or tasks for that contact. And by the way, if there weren't any, I'll show you when you create one. So here's a bunch of tasks for that contact. You can look at it down below here. But let's create a new one. So up here above, there's those Outlook buttons you'll see throughout Profit. And let me just create a new task. Call, and that Profit fills out the name and company if it's applicable, and a phone number just as a convenience. Call Mel Gibson about webinar, let's just say. So we can see what happens when I do this. We're segueing a little off the main topic here, but this is just my Outlook task. I'm gonna give it a due date, maybe highlight it with a color and a priority. And I want a reminder, later on in the day or whatever. So this is a task I just created using the task button while highlighted on that. Now you'll see that task, actually there it is. It's already been created. And you can see that task will be displayed right here in the task pane of the activities where I'm at. I'm in task, activity, task. The cool thing about that, by the way, is that will actually show up in my Outlook task list when I create it. You'll see it right over here on the right. Call Mel Gibson about the webinar. Mark it complete. Away we go. By the way, if we don't get to all your questions and so forth during today's webinar, feel free to reach out. We have a lot of folks that will be able to help you. I am going to try to answer one or two more questions here before we go. Okay, yeah. So do you mind repeating how do you get to your previous screen Power BI desktop? Sure, I'll show you that. Well, Power BI desktop is on my desktop, so I'll show you that. So Power BI desktop. I just have it right here. It's just in my programs. I saved a shortcut right there. So I open Power BI desktop right from my desktop shortcut. It could be that you just, open it up from your programs, but I'll just open it back up one more time. This is my desktop that I'm on. And this is opening up a new instance of Power BI. I like Power BI again because you can launch it without even being in Outlook. You can have it on your laptop, your desktop, your home computer, and it'll launch the Profit dashboards and analytics right from your desktop. Pretty cool. Let's see here. I think I got quite a few of your questions, but if I didn't, I want to first of all thank everyone for attending today. This has been an awesome session.
Boost productivity and get the most out of Outlook with Profit CRM. Have a look at the following topics which are covered in the Profit CRM learning series. Visit www.avidian.com.